Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's time once again to talk about Legends of Tomorrow, assuming I have any brain cells left. Today, we're going to talk about Last Refuge. Yeah, that was my Leonard Snart impression. I considered doing the entire discussion that way, but then I decided that was probably going to be really irritating. You know, like it kind of is in the show. I love the guy who plays Leonard Snart and all, but the folks that are saying that he and Rory are in competition to decide who can be more insanely theatrical in their supervillain speak is absolutely true. And once I finish watching an episode of this show, it's difficult for me not to go around talking like this. Like, I'm gonna go out to the grocery store and get myself some eggs. Anyway, so Last Refuge sees our heroes going back in time to save themselves from an assassin hired by the Time Masters called the Pilgrim. You know, the most ominous, scary assassin name ever, the Pilgrim. I feel dumber and dumber every time I watch the show. It is sometimes dumb fun, and I'll talk about the things about this episode that I enjoyed. But man, I mean, I've got some notes, and I'll talk about some things I thought were funny because they didn't work. But I have completely stopped, and kind of a long time ago, expecting this show to actually make sense, and for the time travel to be even remotely smart, and even for the characters to be consistently written. Because we have yet another episode where everybody seems to sort of forget that they keep screwing up the timeline, and just when it looks like maybe they'll do the right things so they don't ruin their own futures, you get to the end of the episode and they say, screw all that, we're gonna do the right thing. No, the right thing would be to make sure that you don't wind up in a different place than you did so that you can actually go back in time and stop Vandal Savage, because if you do the selfish thing and make your life great because you change like that one, you know, sad tragic thing in your past, then A, you might not learn nothing, and B, it's super selfish because you might not end up on this time trip, and you're supposed to be, you know, important so you can become a legend of tomorrow and save time. You know, that's the whole. See, you can see me getting dumber while I'm talking about. Anyway, let's go through some notes, shall we? So, first of all, if time changes slowly, why does the Pilgrim killing you in the past mean that you instantly die? Oh wait, it doesn't. Not every time. We see the Pilgrim go back in time and kill somebody who's who's like on trial with the Time Master. They're not on trial. I guess they've kind of sentenced this guy to death, and he's standing there, and I forget who he is exactly. And she goes back in time and kills him. So like, has that already happened and they're just waiting around for him to die, or does she kill him in the past and then he dies instantly? I can't tell. I thought in the moment that that's what happened, but then later on, of course, you have the whole molasses effect of it takes time for someone to die through time that you killed. Isn't that relative? I mean, I know I've talked about this before, but it's the big giant hang-up I have with the show right now, where we keep using that as an excuse to be able to change things in the past and not totally mess up the future every time where you have time to fix it. But I don't know what that means when you're talking about time travel. I don't know what time-taking time means. It doesn't make sense, and we're also completely inconsistent about it. So even if we want to look at it as a conceit, which you have to do with time travel in the first place, just give me a consistent set of rules, and we don't have that, and it drives me crazy. So when it looks like Palmer is dying later on, and he's like gradually dying, like I would figure it would just mean it would take time for the ripple effect to happen, whatever that means, and then, you know, you keel over, but no, because it has to look all dramatic in the moment, and so that we can have a reason for he and Kendra to get engaged in that scene so that we can force drama later and make it look like she's going to turn her back on that, and then not at the end, so we can have yet a third in a row happy ending with these characters while we're pretending like we're going to do the tragic thing, because these shows usually do the tragic thing, and so now we're like subverting expectations by always giving them the happy ending. But you know what's going to happen. You know that Carter's going to come back, and that you're going to get the tragic ending anyway, and that these characters aren't going to get to stay together. You know that's where we're going. Like, I was going to talk about that later. I've talked about that. So, you know, forced relationship drama with those two characters is still a problem. Moving on. I hate those exposition dump scenes in this show because they're not even expository dumps so much as lazy plotting excuse dumps. Like, you just get a bunch of people in a room together at the beginning of one of these episodes, and you, like, excuse all the contrivances real quick so that somebody like me can't sit here and do exactly what I'm doing right now. It's not a matter of having a simple, like, throwaway explanation for a thing. It's a matter of it looking like organic storytelling. That's it. Like, sometimes I'll say all you needed was a throwaway line about a thing, but when I say that's meaning that it was a thing that could make sense and that I think might make sense, but you just didn't make something explicit that should have been made explicit, as opposed to a thing that just doesn't make sense at all, that you can't excuse, like case by case, that you can't excuse with a throwaway line of dialogue. That, like, this whole thing about her going back okay, for instance, Gideon is able to calculate and predict when in somebody's timeline she's likely to go back to, and it seems to often be like a major time in their life that really informs who they are. Why then? And how does Gideon know that? And just a throwaway line that Gideon's just able to do that. Okay, what's it based on? Like, I don't understand that. So anyway, I hate those. This whole thing is mostly about the novelty of seeing everybody in the past. Although I will say that I appreciated that it wasn't just the formula of we keep slowly going to each person and picking them up and putting them in the ship, that, like, it kind of it changes gears before the middle, and now we're going and trying to get them as babies in the past. So, you know, I guess I kind of appreciate that just for the sake of storytelling variety. I thought it was absolutely preposterous, and we keep doing this, that we're not worried about our characters meeting themselves in the past, and that would affect, at the very least, like, forgetting Paradox. And Paradox is brought up here about that later on, which I don't know if that's ever been mentioned before, but, like, we keep having characters meet themselves or meet major people that are in their lives in the past, but we're not really worried about the Paradox thing until here when it's mentioned. But at the beginning of the episode, we have Sarah going to get teenage Sarah. Okay, and Rip doesn't, before that, say, hey, that's a really bad idea. You probably shouldn't meet yourself in the past. I mean, I realize that at the end we have the mind wipe thing, but I don't know about the mind wipe thing yet, and I don't know if they know for sure they're going to be using that. That just comes out of nowhere at the end. Oh yeah, and by the way, we can wipe your minds. So, like, we're covering our bases finally, but I'm not trusting this show to do that. And how 60s Batman is this whole thing? Like, Leonard Snart is a 60s Batman villain. I keep thinking that, and then you get to the end of the episode, and it's like bat sleep, and I just think that's hilarious. But anyway, I digress. So, later on, Hunter is like, after we've already done this, having characters grab themselves in the past, with the baby thing, Hunter's like, maybe we shouldn't let you guys interact with yourselves in the past, because that could be really bad for the timeline. Why didn't he say that before? Why doesn't he have control of anything? Isn't he the captain of the ship? Why isn't there a hierarchy or even a dictatorship? Why isn't it just, like, I realize that they volunteered and that his character arc here is supposed to be he's afraid that he's manipulating people and that he's using people as a means to his own end, and he's not looking at them as people. And we'll get to that later, because that is really lazy and clunky and could be cool but doesn't really work. But why doesn't he like even though he's thinking that, first of all, that wasn't the case early on. Like, he's starting to really question his convictions and his motivations now. But I've been asking this question since day one. Why doesn't he have locks on the doors? Why does he let these guys do whatever they're gonna do? Why doesn't he act like a captain and give them assignments and say, this is what you're gonna do, and if you want to sign up and for this mission and help out, you're gonna obey my rules, because I know stuff about time, and it's a really dangerous thing to screw around with. But no, he doesn't do that. He is ridiculously accepting of their doing whatever they want to in the past, and that is so dumb. And I couldn't believe that, and maybe we saw this earlier and I forgot about it, but I couldn't believe that Sarah, I think it was Sarah, I forget, was it Sarah Roy? I think it was Sarah, teenage Sarah, like, puts her, I don't know if I'm right about that, but I think it was teenage Sarah who puts her hand up on the door, and Gideon is like, Sarah Lance, and then opens the door. And I was like, really? They can leave the ship anytime they want to without permission from Hunter, who got the band together and is their captain? And, like I said early on, lock the doors, Hunter, if you don't want them to go gallivanting around in the past and screwing up stuff. But I guess he can't, because he's given them all access to probably everything, honestly. I bet they have access to everything. Yay for Detective Lance in 2017. That was 2007. That was fun. The wigs look awful on both he and Sarah, but obviously we didn't do very much with him, and at the end we just mind wipe him. But it was fun to see him here, and some of these cameos and guest stars have been pretty cool. This is a random little throwaway thing. I like that Hunter has a collection of vintage cereals. I like these little personality quirks that we're getting for him. He is probably my first or second favorite character in this show, and one of the only next to. And again, I still can't believe I'm saying this, Palmer is probably the best character in the show, and I hated him in Arrow. Of course, Palmer gets interrupted again just before he proposes, and it's a life-threatening thing, naturally. Two times he's tried to propose to Kendra, and both times some huge, giant, life-changing moment has happened to interrupt him. I don't know how he doesn't know he's in a TV show. He should know that at this point. I like the line from this exchange between Pilgrim and Palmer when he asks, "Who are you?" and she says, "I'm no one. We have that in common." Continuing to drive home the point with Palmer that he was a nobody and he's trying to make something of himself, and he is mostly managing that. I thought that was kind of cool. It would have been really neat if we had done anything with the Pilgrim's character and she wasn't just kind of the throwaway villain for this episode, and actually look a little bit deeper into that and make it not just, this clever exchange of I'm no one, like you don't matter. But it'd be cool if she saw this as a duty that she had to perform, but wished that she could have a real life, and saw herself as being used by the Time Masters, and maybe even have a parallel there between the people that Rory is using, and that Rory is seeing himself as acting too much like the Time Masters, and wishes he didn't have to be that way, and is starting to try to figure out if there's some better, more altruistic way to do what he's trying to do. And I see all of the cool ideas that could have been explored in this, but aren't. Why is it Starling City? Did I see this wrong? Why is it Starling City in 2007, but Star City in 2014 when we go to Palmer? Because it wasn't changed yet. It didn't turn into Star City until Palmer was thought to be dead. That's why they changed it. We can't even keep up with our own continuity. Did I see that wrong? If I saw that wrong, leave a comment. But I went back and looked at it, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about it. We're on the screen. It says Starling City. We're trying to have a sense of continuity where we say, okay, yes, in 2007 it was still called Starling City. But because Palmer is there and is the main person we're dealing with in that scene, it says Star City. Here is an example of giving lines to random people and not even thinking about who it is that's saying it. The show does this all the time. It drives me absolutely crazy. It's a very Saturday morning cartoon thing, and it shouldn't be in a show like this unless it wants to be a Saturday morning cartoon, and I wish it was more that way, because that's when it's even remotely working, that's when it's remotely working. But then every now and again it'll do an almost cool dramatic thing, and so then I wish it was that. Whatever. It's inconsistent. But it's... But there's this part where Rip says that he wants to go abduct them all as babies and remove them from their future timelines, and Cold says that's morally questionable. Morally questionable? You're Captain Cold. Like Captain Cold has become the moral voice for this group. And that's hysterical. And it'd be cool if we actually kind of did something with that, because yeah, he has a code, and Steve and I have talked a lot about the code and the inconsistency in the code. And of course, this is a guy who decided not to kill Rory because that was morally questionable. And I get that, but he's still a person who will do the wrong thing for the right reasons. He just has a line that he doesn't cross. Why did we give that line to him? Why didn't we give that line to Stein? Like, Stein is the guy that's always worried about ends justifies the means, and he will do whatever he's really impulsive. He'll do whatever in the moment he thinks is the right thing, no matter what it means for the future. And I'll talk about that later too. But why didn't he get that line? And we do that kind of thing all the time. That's just an example of it. I don't know if this bothered anybody else, but Kendra and Sarah swooning over how cute baby Snart is just because they're girls kind of bothered me a little bit. Maybe if it wasn't so over the top, it's just everything is dialed to 11 in the show. Like, maybe if it wasn't quite so over the top, but it just, I guess the reason it bugged me the most is because they're in a hurry, and they've got to, the stakes are kind of high, and they don't want to get caught, and Kendra's like, and that was weird, where that it was Sarah first that was like, oh, he's so cute, and then Kendra's like, no, we gotta go, and then she sees the baby and instantly goes into girl finding babies cute mode, and is like, oh, he's so cute, and now our priority is playing with the cute baby. And I didn't think that was in either of their characters, and I wonder if anybody else saw that as being kind of a really irritating typical gender thing, where it's, oh, they're girls, so, babies. So you got the thing with Stein finding Jackson's father in the hospital, and Jackson and his father have a kind of a touching moment, but I wish the guy playing Jackson was a better actor. I've talked about that before, and I think this show has really hurt this kid's acting ability. I thought he was fine in Flash, and now he's in this goofy cartoon show where every now and again he has to do some actual acting, and he seems to be one of the actors that has figured out what kind of show he's in, maybe to a fault. This guy, every time things are not going his way and he's kind of worried about his own safety or the safety of the future or whatever, he does this like scowl thing where he's like he just does that all the time, and I didn't notice it before, but now he's doing it constantly. And anyway, so it was an okay written scene, I guess, but Stein, once again, is regressing, and not even regressing, just staying stagnant, and not remembering things that have happened in the past, and but then at the same time, I guess, last episode, he saves H.G. Wells and everything is fine, so I guess moving forward, he's gonna, always help people in the past, not, completely forgetting the fact that it could mess with the timeline, and just because he meets them. Has it occurred to him that all kinds of horrible things happen to people, and that he's not going to always be there, and that, like all over history, but, once he's there and knows about it, now it's important, and he has to deal with it. The difference between him and Palmer is Palmer seems to have an actual moral center and moral code, and he does the right thing because he thinks it's the right thing. Stein, it seems to come from a place of insecurity, where he wants to feel important. And he's like that overzealous parent that that helps too much and is always in their kid's business and makes things worse every time. He's like that. I wish he made things worse a little bit more often, so then maybe he would learn from it, but probably not in this show. And, this is the guy who kidnaps a kid at the beginning of the show, and for selfish reasons, and he has never seemed to really get past the selfish thing. And I think that the show is overcompensating, where it's oh, we kind of messed up with him and threw him under the bus really hard, made him seem sort of morally reprehensible, so now we'll make him the moral voice of reason. But the problem is it doesn't seem like it comes from that place like it does with Palmer. And so then he's speak from your heart. And he says, to Jackson, well, what's the worst that could happen? Surely it's not gonna hurt the timeline too much if you get to talk to your father one time, before he dies in battle, because you never knew him. And I'm like, no, that could be who knows what'll happen. I was kind of surprised in the moment when Jackson almost spills the beans and then says, and then is like, nah, I better not do that, and just tells him to be safe or have a good trip or whatever it is, and then he leaves, and then at the end, he decides to go back on that and try to get him to change his future, and I guess we'll see how that affects things. It's possible that all of this will pay off after this episode. In some way, at the end of the episode, there's this big mystery, or there's this big kind of looming, oh man, now we're finally going to get to see what all these changes really do to the timeline, because it's caught up and it takes time, and now it's taken time. But so, we'll see. I might end up liking this episode more after this, but I think it's odd that we've had so many things that we've messed with in the past that haven't had any effect whatsoever on the future, and that makes it very hard to believe that anything is ever at stake in the show. So I'm glad they're kind of dealing with it, but it's kind of too little too late, and I wasn't trusting it the whole episode, so I didn't appreciate it fully when we finally got there. I like that Hunter's family and past is explored. I like Hunter in the past quite a bit. I think it's fun that he's already kind of himself. Because he's led a hard life, and he had to kind of steal to survive and stuff before he actually becomes Rip Hunter. I also think that's and I wish we'd explore this some. I also think it's really interesting that he dealt with that kid in a previous episode that was gonna grow up and become the next Hitler, and the big question was, is that the same person if he could change before he grows up, and so is it wrong to kill him or whatever? And here, we find that this Rip Hunter is kind of exactly the same as he is later on, and so we have this so we could kind of have this question of whether or not a person can really change and do a nature nurture thing, and I wish we'd explore that. I think his mother was really well cast. I like their rapport together a lot, and I just wish we would do more with her. They go to her house, and she's this safe refuge for time travelers. It should have somehow been a refuge outside of time, I think. It being in a time that no one can find is weird and problematic, because, once again, wherever it is in history, if you're changing things, that could mess with the flow of the timeline. Somebody explain this exchange to me. Rory to young Rory. Where did you get the match? Young Rory. You can always find them. What? What kind of writing is that? Go back to the Dark Ages and find me a match. I don't understand that exchange. You can always find a match. That's our superpower. We're match detectors. So the whole thing about Rory turning into his father is not a bad idea. Where young Rory is like, you're just like my dad. You got certain characters that have changed a lot, like Sarah. You have other characters like Hunter that haven't really changed all that much at all, but want to. And then you have Rory, who doesn't seem to really want to change, but then this might be the moment where he sort of does, where his younger self, where he says, "I'm gonna kill you," and his younger self is like, "You're just like my dad." And while that could all be interesting, Rory threatening to kill his younger self is ridiculous, especially considering that he was Kronos and he knows about time travel. And what would happen if he killed himself? Maybe he was, bluffing, but I kind of doubt it with Rory. I think he really would just kill himself in the past. Once again, these characters learn nothing. Like, I thought this guy was a little bit more put together and a little more street smart now, and a little less dumb in the head. But no, he's still pretty dumb. He's just, before he was worried that everybody thought he was dumb, and now he doesn't even realize how dumb he is. Apparently, that's what I think. This show just overall is starting to feel like a show that was mistakenly greenlit. Like it was. Like the other shows that it was based on were really popular, so no matter what this was, it was going to make it. And we're more and more, I feel like I'm watching a show that just should never have been made, and I hate that about it, because it's got Sarah Lance. You notice I don't talk about her very much. She is a really dumbed down version of Sarah. I don't understand the White Canary thing. She doesn't seem to be really a redeemed character, and that's what the white would signify, so I don't really get that. She seems to just be sort of an oversimplified version of the really awesome Sarah Lance that I loved from Arrow Season 2. Katie Lott's course is great. I loved seeing her play her younger self, and it would be fun to go back to early Season 2 Arrow and look at the midpoint between that she plays in the past in those fantastic flashback scenes back when we sometimes did good flashbacks in that show with Sarah on the island. So here you get to see more of, and she's playing it just like she did in, there was like one flashback, I think, in Season 2, where we got to see the teenage Sarah, and she plays it just like that, and she's very innocent, she's very naive, and really kind of surface and simple-minded, and I really enjoyed getting to see her play that again, and up against her very hardened and world-weary self. I have lots of notes about this episode because it's a ridiculous episode, so this is long. I apologize. We've got your standard hostage leverage ploy. At the moment that the Pilgrim says prisoner exchange, I was typing prisoner exchange. Like, you can see exactly where this is going. It's so cookie cutter and generic. Really, I started going, oh, this is going to be a prisoner exchange. Prisoner exchange! Like, the moment I was typing that. Yeah, yes. Okay, naturally. They ripped off Force Awakens, where Captain Cold shoots his cold gun, and it's got the cold beam sitting in midair, and the camera swivels around it, and it's swiveling around, to be fair, a lot of other projectiles that have been shot out of weapons, but that one struck me as very Force Awakens, with the beam that gets shot out in that opening scene, and that gets stopped in midair by Kylo Ren. So here's the thing I thought was absolutely ridiculous. Hunter to Stein. I promised you I will not risk your marriage in order to save my wife. No, you are risking his marriage by having him there at all and ever dealing with things that happen in his own life in the past. You are risking that. That is a thing that he can sign on for and understand that it's a risk and think it's worth it, and then you're not to blame as long as you're being open with him and transparent and telling him exactly what he's in for. Then you're not using him necessarily just for your own ends, because these people have their own personal reasons for doing this, and saving the future is a good lofty goal that maybe you can understand why these people would be helping you even if your primary concern is your own family. So that was ridiculous. Don't make promises you can't keep. And I don't understand what Hunter is supposed to be learning in this episode, because it's played like his mother is like, stop feeling sorry for yourself and feeling like you're using these people and being selfish. No, he was being selfish. As far as I can tell, he's still trying to change the timeline from what it would have been originally. That it's not like Vandal Savage changed the timeline to turn it into something else. This is what would have happened, and he's trying to No, it is selfish. The only reason he cares, it's not like he's going back to other time periods and trying to change other things that had nothing to do with him. It's not like he's going back and trying to stop the JFK assassination or anything. Like it is, and I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea either, but I'm just saying that, it is selfish. The only reason he's doing it is for himself and for his own family. So, that motivation might change over time, but it seems like the thing he's supposed to learn here is that, no, he is endearing and altruistic and has been doing the right thing all along, and he's too hard on himself. No, he's not too hard on himself. This is totally a confliction that he should have. So then at the very end, Rip Hunter has probably the stupidest line of the entire series so far, when he says to Jackson, time wants to happen. That's the big catchphrase of the show. Time wants to happen. That's a dumb line all by itself. Time wants to happen. It's sillier than Gordon's "It's a new day," and "It's a new day" is only silly because he says it so often. But I digress. Shiny shoes. Perhaps what time wants. So time wants to happen, but perhaps what time wants is to see you and your father back together. What? So he just says that because he is all emotional and wants to see a good thing happen for Jackson. No, Time does not want that. That's not what happened in the first... What does Time wants to happen mean? Does it mean Time wants to not stop, so there's no time? No, that's not what that means. The way it's been said all along up until now, and clearly is still what it's supposed to be, is that time wants to happen the way it happens and not be changed. That would be changing it. And furthermore, if that happens, then he's never going to be on your ship, probably, likely, and the future might change. So maybe what it's supposed to be is Hunter is starting to care about other people and their problems and their families enough that if he can help reunite them with their families, then maybe what happened to his is worth it, even if he fails. Maybe that's supposed to be the idea. That line is really stupid. That's all I got for this show. It's a pretty dense episode. I will say that I was kind of surprised by how much it managed to do and how much screen time everybody got, and giving everybody something to do just on a surface kind of level. But this show is just absolute nonsense. I don't know what else to say about it. So let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. Did you enjoy it? Did you detest it? Was I too hard on it? Leave your comments. Let me know what you thought. And I will see you again next time for more Legends on Primetime Crisis, and I'll have another Primetime Crisis for you soon on the latest episode of Powerpuff Girls. So look forward to that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.